Good morning. Today we're gonna take a look at activity-based costing, ABC. What does ABC mean? First, let's take a look at traditional absorption costing. We work down all of our overhead in a big pool and divide them with the most reasonable basis. One cost driver and another one cost pool, but not all costs incurred in the same way. It's a complex thing to say. The next thing we're gonna take a look is composite costs. Composite costs show us that there could be more than one thing that could cause an increase in a cost, showing us how complicated a costing can be. There will be multiple cost driver and multiple cost pool. Imagine one production department. Let's name it Department A. Department A consists of multiple types of cost and cost driver. But using only one cost driver, it doesn't really work like that, isn't it? So, ABC is the solution to this problem.
Okay, now I will be explaining the step-by-step process of activity-based costing, or simply known as ABC. Step 1. Identify activities. We need to identify all the activities involved in producing a product or providing a service. Activities can include things like setting up machines, inspecting products, or handling materials. Basically, we find out what work is being done inside the business. Step 2. Assign costs to activities. We group similar costs into something called an activity cost pool. For example, all costs related to machine maintenance will be grouped together under machine maintenance. Step 3. Determine the cost drivers. A cost driver is the factor that causes the cost of an activity. For example, the number of machine setups can be a cost driver for setup costs. Step 4. Calculate the cost driver rate. We calculate the cost driver rate by dividing the total activity cost by the total number of cost driver units. This gives us the cost per unit of activity. And lastly, step 5. Assign costs to products. We assign the activity cost to the products based on how much each product uses the activities. In this way, products that require more work will absorb more cost, and products that require less work will absorb fewer cost. And that is a simple 5-step process of activity-based costing.
So you guys have go through the step-by-step for activity-based costing product. So now I will give you an example for activity-based costing product for producing product. So let's get started. Here we have Stationery Co. So Stationery Co. Manufactures pens and pencils. 3 departments involved in the activity-based costing process, which is stores department, pens department, and pencils department. The stores department receive raw materials such as wood, plastic, lead, and ink. The indirect costs associated with receiving raw materials are 75,000, and the total number of goods received net processed by this department is 10,000. The stores department issues these raw materials to the pen and pencils production departments as they are required. The indirect costs associated with issuing raw materials are $90,000, and the number of materials requisition notes MR processed by this department is 15,000. The pen department generates 8,500 MRs, and pencil department generates 6,500 MRs in 2OS5. So first, you need to figure what are the main activities of stores department. So there are 2 main activities in the stores department, which is receiving raw materials from suppliers and issuing raw materials to the production departments. Next, you will need to identify the cost pools and the cost drivers for stores department. So first, you will need to identify cost pools. So cost pools for receiving raw materials from suppliers is $75,000, and issuing raw materials to production departments cost about $90,000. Next, identify the cost driver. So cost drivers for receiving raw materials from supplier is the number of goods received note, GRN, and the cost driver for issuing raw materials to the production departments is number of materials requisition notes, MR. After that, you have to calculate the cost driver rate for each activity in the stores department. So for indirect costs per goods received note, GRN, you will have to put the amount of indirect costs, 75,000, and divide it with GRN amount, 10,000, and you will get $7.50 per GRN. Same goes with the indirect cost for materials acquisition, and you will get $6 per MR. And the last one, you will have to calculate how much is allocated to the pen department for the MRs generated in 20S5. So you will have to multiply both of the numbers. 8,500 multiplied with 6, you will get $51,000, which is amount for allocation to pen department.
So next, I will explain about what is the difference between activity-based costing and traditional absorption costing. Traditional absorption costing usually uses just one single basis to absorb all overhead costs into products. For example, it might use number of machine hours or number of labor hours. The problem with this approach is that not all overheads are driven by volume. Some overheads are caused by other activities like setting up machines, processing orders, or handling materials. So, ABC improves on this by: first, ABC avoids reapportionment of serving department costs. Traditional costing often has complicated reallocation steps between service departments and production departments before costs are charged to products. So basically, ABC skips that complexity. Second, ABC uses many cost drivers as absorption bases rather than just one, such as labor hours. ABC absorption rates should be linked more closely to the causes of the overhead. For example, each type of overhead cost is traced to activities and allocated based on what actually causes that cost. Third, ABC absorption rates should lead to more accurate products costing and therefore better decision making, because costs are allocated based on real activities like number of orders, so the final product cost is so much closer to the truth. When costs are more accurate, so the business can set better prices, control costs better, and decide which products to focus on. Lastly, ABC recognized that overhead costs arise out of diversity and complexity of operation. For example, a highly customized product might not take many labor hours, but it may involve many setups, many design changes, and many inspections. So, ABC captures these extra costs properly. In short, traditional absorption costing is simpler but less accurate, while ABC is more complex but gives a much more accurate and fair picture of cost.